Seriously?
Hey guys, and welcome to this 9th edition update video with myself, 6+ Stevo. So in this one I'm going to be taking a look at this article on the Warhammer Community site, and it is Faction Focus Astra Militarum. Now, why on earth am I bringing attention to this? This is an Orc channel after all. None of us are going to be that fussed at what's going on with the Astra Militarum. That is, unless we are facing them and we want to learn their weaknesses. But in amongst all the information about the good old Imperial Guard in this article, there is a tidbit of information regarding 9th edition that applies to all of us and will be particularly of interest to us Orc players. So let's take a look. We'll scroll past all these lovely images. They do look cool, don't they? I've always had a bit of a love for the good old Imperial Guard. You know, legions of tanks, loads of troops, Ogryns there, Sentinels. Sentinels have always been cool. But that is not why we're here, so we need to scroll on past, blah-de-blah-de-blah, yada-yada-yada, Imperial propaganda, and here we are. So we come to this part, the morale phase, because morale is getting, what they say in here is quite a small change, but a significant change. And yeah, morale has become a lot more forgiving. So let's read on. We'll read this little bit about the morale and then we'll have a little chat about it. So the morale phase. While we're on the topic of commissars, we thought we'd take a closer look at the new rules for the morale phase before we go any further. Morale affects every warring faction, from the most stalwart Space Marine to the most cowardly Grot. In the new edition, the morale phase has undergone a subtle change with a big impact. Combat Attrition. The process of a morale test works the same way as before. Morale test equals d6 plus number of models destroyed this turn. Unmodified roll of 1 always succeeds. If a morale test exceeds unit's leadership, one model flees and other models must take combat attrition tests. So far the beginning bit of that reads the same as always. You roll a d6, you add the number of models that are destroyed, and you compare it to your leadership. If you beat your leadership, then you're going to lose some miniatures. Where this changes is that you lose one model and any other ones must take combat attrition tests. So this is completely new. Gives them another chance to stay in the fight. So it says, the difference is what happens when you fail your morale test. You make a separate combat attrition roll for each model in the unit, meaning that any number of them, or if you're lucky, none of them, may also flee. What's more, the morale of a heavily depleted squad will already be wavering due to the losses they've suffered. So units that are below half strength suffer a penalty to their combat attrition rolls. This is sort of sounding a little similar to Kill Team, kind of. It's different, but I'm getting that same kind of vibe off it. Combat attrition tests. Roll 1d6 for each remaining model in unit. For each one additional model flees. So they only run on a 1. So a 2+ to stay in the fight. Subtract 1 from combat attrition tests if the unit is below half strength. So even if your unit is below half strength, you only need to make a 3+ for those models to stay in the fight. With this change to morale tests, any abilities that help mitigate further losses from combat attrition can be incredibly valuable. For example, a Commissar's Summary Execution rule means that a nearby Astra Militarum unit that fails a morale test has a much better chance of avoiding this eventually. So so we're getting more back into specifics to Imperial Guard this. We don't really need to go into that. But yeah, this is huge. This is massive. And it's strange that they've just... you have to look out, guys. If you're not reading the articles covering other factions, you need to look in, because most of these articles have little bits in there that are not specific to that faction. They're just general changes to the rules. And this is the first time we've heard anything about about morale. So this is really interesting. Now, where does this fit in with Orcs? Well, Orcs, we suffer massively in the morale phase. in the later stages of the game. Certainly at the beginning, if we're running large mobs of Boyz, we're fairly safe from it. We've effectively got a leadership of 30 if we're running full mobs of Boyz. So we can, and we've got things like knobs and war bosses and stuff that can mitigate, you know, certain amounts of failures and things and just keep us in the fight. But whichever way you look at it, the Orc faction does suffer with morale in the later stages of the game. Certainly with units like Grots and stuff with a leadership of 4, you know, we've got some really cowardly units that will crumble under the pressure. And a failed leadership test, if you've suffered a lot of casualties, you can lose a huge amount of miniatures from a failed morale test. So currently, in 8th, that's how it can happen. But this is massive, and this, I can only see this really benefiting armies like ours, low leadership armies, you know, swarm armies, horde armies, things like that with fairly low leadership. We're going to be the ones that are going to benefit from this hugely. Things like Space Marines and stuff don't ever really need to worry about leadership. Only in the most extreme circumstances do they ever have to give the slightest fuck about leadership. But with us, it can hurt us a lot, and this is huge. This means that from now on, you know, you fail your leadership test by 5, you're not losing 5 models, you're losing 1 model, and then you're rolling 2+ for the rest of them to keep them in the fight. And we're probably likely to get some kind of special rules and things in the future, or updates or something to the codex in which we can soften that blow even further. Maybe things like war bosses and stuff will have, you know, some effect on that combat attrition. But it's huge. Like I said, even under half strength, it's still only a 3+ to survive, you know, a 1 or a 2 for them to run. It's massive. It is massive. Certainly units like killer cans, which are, you know, whenever I ran them in units of 6, and leadership tests were terrifying to take for them, and I've failed leadership with them and lost a couple of cans before. So things like this will be great. And you've always got your command reroll if it's something that you really don't want to lose, you know, like a multi-wound miniature. I don't want to lose that from a failed leadership. You've got your combat, your command rerolls. This is huge, and this massively benefits us. So I think, again, we've had a lot of talk of early on with these reveals that, oh, horde armies are dead. Well, I'm sorry, this is yet again another bit of information that puts horde armies very much back on the map, because I think a lot of people underestimate leadership and morale and don't always take it into account. But it is huge. It's huge. It can be game changing, you know. Failed leadership tests can really hurt you in game, really can. And this is massive. This means that morale is far less devastating in 9th than it has been in 8th, because it can hurt. I've been on the end of some pretty miserable failed morale tests, especially when you're running like mobs of like 30 Boyz and, you know, you've lost 20 of them. That's going to be a difficult like leadership test. You know, it can hurt. But yeah, there we go, guys. It's just a quick video. I wanted to bring this to your attention because, quite frankly, I think that a lot of you out there may have missed this. And I'm sure you'll be pleased as I am about this. I think Orcs are going to be in a good place come 9th edition. But anyway, guys, for now on this video... Oh, hang on, before I do that, please share your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about all this. Do you think this is going to help us? Did you notice this? Have you been reading the articles on the other factions and been finding these little tidbits of information? But anyway, share your thoughts below, guys. Please hit that like button. If you aren't already, why aren't you? Become a subscriber. Come on, hit that subscribe button. But anyway, guys, for now, this is 6+ Stevo, signing out.